Did the Force actually betray Qui-Gon Jinn to his death? Greetings, wise acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the archives. Among all the Jedi in the Order around the time of the Republic Classic era, Qui-Gon Jinn was one of those few that truly understood what the will of the Force actually was. He aligned himself with it constantly, and emphasized following the will of the living Force above all else. However, this often got him into many troublesome situations with even beings a part of the Jedi Order, and especially the Jedi Council, that didn't understand the way that he viewed the Force. Qui-Gon let the living Force guide him in whatever he did, becoming a conduit of sorts, and yet, that didn't save him on Naboo when he was pierced by the blade of a Sith, forever altering the course of galactic history. So the question is, though Qui-Gon insisted on being the ambassador of the will of the Force, was it the Force's will to actually have him die? Did the Force betray Qui-Gon Jinn? Well, today, my friends, we have much to speculate on, so it's time to open up yet another holocron and dive into this question. Before we do though, many of our archivists have noticed that some students pursuing our holocrons have not yet enrolled in our order. So, if you enjoy these sorts of breakdowns and want to see more of them, be sure to force crush that subscribe button and become an acolyte today. Now, onto the holocron. To understand what happened, we need to understand exactly what it means when Qui-Gon references the will of the living Force. Qui-Gon believed that it was a Jedi's duty to exclusively serve the Force as well as its wills, never following one's own selfish ambitions or giving in to the whims of others. He did his best to instruct Obi-Wan in these ways as well, though Obi-Wan, believing more in the tenets of dogma of the Jedi Order, had a difficult time understanding the lessons that Qui-Gon tried to impart upon him. This was due to the fact that Qui-Gon Jinn did not obey the rules or adhere to the rules of the Jedi, and only obeyed the ones that came to him through the Force. He believed the will of the Force transcended all rules or laws made by mortal beings, which often got him in a lot of trouble. He also believed quite staunchly in simply serving the needs of the living Force, often saying that it was the true way of the Jedi to do so. The whole idea centers around the notion of cosmic justice or deliverance. Many people speak of someone or something receiving what they deserve, whether for good or bad. Well, Qui-Gon believes that he himself is the conduit for that cosmic justice. As a Jedi, and one who can hear the light side of the Force, it is his duty to listen to what the Force needs him to do at any given moment. On one mission, Qui-Gon took Obi-Wan to a remote jungle planet in search for a specific beast that rested there. Along the way, Qui-Gon showed kindness to a very unkind alien creature, and when the creature turned on them and tried to kill the Jedi in their sleep, Qui-Gon slayed it without any hesitation. Obi-Wan inquired as to why Qui-Gon even bothered feeding the wretched creature in the first place, to which his master replied that he did so simply because the creature was hungry. But the moment the creature turned on them, Qui-Gon killed it because if he hadn't, he would have died, and his work as a servant of the living Force was not over. Later, the two Jedi encountered the cave of the beast that they were sent there to hunt, and it turns out that the monster was a creature that fed off of the dark side itself. The Jedi then destroyed the monster even though it was sleeping and hadn't harmed anyone or anything in likely decades or even hundreds of years. Asking, Qui-Gon revealed that he had no idea why they had come to the planet or what they were meant to do, and only knew what to do as soon as he saw the monster. The whole time, he had simply been guided by the Force itself. Obi-Wan inquires with him on why they killed the monster despite the fact that it was mostly harmless, and why they decided to kill it in its sleep. This is when Qui-Gon Jinn says, "The ways of the living Force are beyond our understanding. Who knows why we were sent to exterminate the beast? Perhaps we were agents of retribution. Perhaps we performed an act of liberation. We cannot know. We can only serve." But such is the way of a servant of the living Force. Qui-Gon doesn't regularly know himself what he is doing at any point in time. He only allows himself to act as the Force guides him. This makes Qui-Gon Jinn believe that no matter where he is, there are no coincidences. When they land on Tatooine and they met the slave boy named Anakin Skywalker, of course Qui-Gon would immediately take interest in him. He understood it was the will of the Force for the two of them to meet. When later he realized that Anakin was the chosen one, everything clicked into place, and he insisted on his training, knowing that the boy would play a crucial role in the times to come. It was indeed the Force's will for Qui-Gon to liberate the Chosen One and bring him into the ways of the Force itself. However, the real question is, was it the Force's will for Qui-Gon to be his mentor? Without a doubt, it had been proven many times that Qui-Gon was the absolute best mentor possible for Anakin. But again, had Qui-Gon Jinn survived Naboo, he would have trained Anakin into the perfect Jedi, and the young Skywalker would have undoubtedly had much more power and control over his abilities. He would have been more emotionally stable, more respectful, and more secure in his place as a Jedi. He would not have been easily manipulated by Palpatine, and though Qui-Gon might have died at the hands of Sidious, Anakin would have been instrumental in putting an end to the Sith Lord's plot, and the Jedi Order would have continued their reign and reigning supreme in the Republic and the galaxy. But in this scenario, one problematic thing remains: the Jedi themselves. This keeps the Force out of balance. You see, there is much speculation and evidence to support that the Force was okay with the Jedi being destroyed due to their dogma and belief. With the Force needing to be balanced, the Dark needed to balance out properly, but with Order 66 and the turning of the Chosen One, the pendulum swung too heavily to the dark side, and the Force had to correct itself yet again by bringing Luke and the Chosen One back to the light. If we think about it this way, we understand that it may have been the Force's will to allow Anakin to turn to the dark side for the sake of balance. Had Qui-Gon survived, that wouldn't have happened. The Force needed Qui-Gon Jinn to die. He had served his purpose as the conduit for its will, and now it was the will of the living Force to have Qui-Gon serve one final mission and die for the sake of balance. Qui-Gon even said himself that when the Force was ready for him to die, he would go willingly. This is likely why he didn't use Force heal on himself when he got stabbed, or at least didn't harness the Force to prolong his death until he got medical treatment. Of course, it was not Qui-Gon Jinn's plan to die at the hands of Maul, but we have to remember what Qui-Gon believes. Everything happens for a reason. In the novelization for The Phantom Menace, we learned that the way Qui-Gon Jinn fights is he lets the Force guide his blade and actions purely knowing that it will be the will of the Force whether he lives or dies, not his own skill or the skill of his enemy. So the moment he is stabbed, it is our speculation that Qui-Gon knew that it happened for a very specific reason, keeping himself alive long enough to tell Obi-Wan to train the boy, but allowed himself to transcend into the living Force. So, did the Force betray Qui-Gon Jinn? Well, yes and no. The Force is a cosmic energy that centers around maintaining the balance of life itself. In order to do that, life must be given, and it must be taken. To us, we may see it as a betrayal, but to the cosmic eye, it is simply a stepping stone in the grand scheme, the bigger picture. Unlike most people, most Jedi, Qui-Gon understood this bigger picture, and therefore knew it was his time, and the moment he was injured, he knew that he would die. He knew the Force would never allow him to sustain a fatal injury unless it was the Force's will for him to do so. He cannot know, he can only serve. Even if in this case, serving means giving up his very life. Well, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? And was it the Force's very will to have Qui-Gon Jinn die? Was it his overconfidence in the living Force that got Qui-Gon Jinn killed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, my friends, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.